Hello there. I'm gonna get us started right off. Yeah, it is the 20th week of doing this right now, and we're getting in. I griped a little bit yesterday evening about how the week thus far, all the music I had gone through was kind of a, it seemed like it was going to be kind of a weak week, and it still is. Obviously, some of the releases are technically from before, and some of them are ones that just came out. But yeah, we've got 12 albums to get through. Obviously, a few of them are EPs. And in the description, I noted that of the 12 albums, one of them is not actually a recommendation. We'll get to that here in the first half of the stream. One of the actual albums, I would say, is going to be more of a discussion about like music criticism and how people tend to like kind of just go all in on certain albums, even if they're maybe not that great. So let me get my notes and everything here set up. Okay, there we go. Kind of strained myself a little bit. All right, so putting us over right off, I should probably turn on the audio for my desktop. That would be good. Yeah, we're just going to start off. We are entering this stream with electronic music. Just if anyone's interested, it's going to be electronic and then indie pop, rock metal, and we're going to end with rap and hip hop. And yeah, since there's only 12 albums, it's going to be kind of evenly split between them. Up first, we have I'm assuming it's Untable. Not entirely sure, but the artist is Bad Zoo. It's just this heavy techno. It's quite dark. Got some sort of ethnic motifs going through it. Noisy. Feels like stuff you could almost even mosh to. It's got a little bit of that sort of punk metal energy. It's good stuff if you like that kind of thing. It's got like the Arca sort of aesthetics going on too. I've seen videos of these guys as well, and if I'm not mistaken, they actually have like live drums and instruments at their sets too, so it's kind of a thing. But let me just jump right into it so you get the idea. So, kind of sparse here at the beginning. Jump ahead here a little bit. Like it does switch things up. It's not just kind of So, I mean, again, it's got a kind of a darker, heavier vibe to it. It's not necessarily something that you would maybe imagine yourself dancing to, but also not totally out of the question. But this does feel like it's trying to be a bit more heavy. That's just the easiest way of saying it. And again, I used the word ethnic it's not, I mean, anytime that sort of tribal drumming fits in there, that's just the word that's going to get thrown out. Is it the best word to describe it? Maybe not, but it's maybe understandable. And I think you can hear that. So, yeah. Very short, 4 songs, right? Under 15 minutes. But it's very nice. Very nice EP. It's got some nice of that heavy, like dark electro vibe. Again, imagery-wise, it feels like something like Arca. Or, I can't think of anything else off the top of my head right now, but yeah. So that is Bad Zoo with Untable. I'm assuming that's how you say that. That's the EP. And then the second and final electronic release this week is Neistовый by Turbosh. I'm not entirely sure how you say their name. These guys are... Last year they put out a bunch of small, like, one-offs, and I think maybe a short release. This is their second full-length. I'm just going to start with the press release. Turbosh comes out with all guns blazing on this new bold album at the cusp of summer, a true festival of genres and styles from speed garage and hyperpop to ghetto house and Euro dance. It's just like pure energy on this thing. It's sweet, fun. It's kind of like a rush of sugar. And honestly, there is a song ostensibly named after сырки в шоколаде, which are these like sweetened kind of, through these little dairy sweets here in Russia. And they're awesome, and the song's awesome, and that like just puts it there. And realistically, this just feels like the type of thing that would be awesome at like an outdoor party in the summertime. So let's just start with the... Like, it definitely leans into the Euro end of techno, but like that's fine. We're in Russia. Love that vocal effect there. It's not, I mean, it's just that echo or stutter, staccato thing. It's fast, it's energetic. Like, you go to the opening track. Still got the speed, still got the energy. Also, quite a lineup of featured guests on this album, too. A lot of them fairly well-known names in the Russian, like, techno electronic community as well. So, like, obviously there are people making music like this in 2025. It's probably not even the first time I've had an album similar to this, but I feel like it's kind of died off more in the West. I don't know exactly. Like, obviously it was never huge in the States. Europe is a different story. But in 2025, Russian artists are mining the millennia, right? Like, they're going back to the Y2K period of time for inspiration, young artists, and they're like finding what probably was a little bit cringe 10 years ago and reimagining it. and it's not being done ironically. They're taking that like late 90s, early 2000s Euro techno sound and just enjoying it. Also, the lyrics are a little bit not ironic, but they're not about partying necessarily and stuff. A bit, but and one. Yeah, like I had to include this. Just like, this is the goofiest, but it's so goddamn fun. This is like the old, it's like the old 90s Russian techno music. Dacha or something. Но пива очень много, но и в каком-то смысле мало. Но лаве на кармане, значит все в порядке. Если что-то кончится, в ларьке пивка всегда в достатке. Тусим до упаду, пьем пиво сколько влезет. Музон на всю орет, мы круто оторвемся вместе. Затусуйся под МС, прыгай, зажигай, не сиди на месте, веселей давай. Затусуйся под МС, прыгай, зажигай, не сиди на месте, веселей давай. So, yeah, I'm just going to cut it off there. That is Turbosh, or Turbosh. I'm not entirely sure how they want that pronounced. The album is Neistовый, which is basically, how does it even translate? Like bold, full of, like, thick. I don't know. It's a just like full of energy kind of thing. It's a good word to describe the album. And yeah. Honestly, of the electronic stuff I listened to this week, which honestly was not a ton, but, you know, this was definitely the most fun. And it's probably the most fun electronic music-wise that I've heard in a while, which is perfect. It's the end of May. It's like I said, just in time for the summer party season. So, all right, moving on to pop and indie. We open up with Электросон, and the album is Никого, люблю. This is like synth pop and post-punk. It's got the energy and typically the lightness of the former, and then the brooding atmosphere and kind of depressive lyrics of the latter. At times, the lyrics even feel a bit emo, or like even goth rock, you could say. It's an unusual mix, but it does feel a bit like a natural union. Honestly, it's a sound that probably existed in the 1980s anyway. There is something of a story here. It's like Никого не люблю is I don't love anyone. And then it's like this character kind of going through maybe a sense of loss and also just sort of pushing away the world and then coming back around to it. I didn't really look too heavily into the lyrics. It's not really necessary. The music's quite nice, it's quite fun. It's, again, synth pop and post-punk, which merges together quite well. But I think there is like a redemptive character arc on the album as well. So I think you can hear, right, a little bit of the post-punk influence and the synth pop going on. But it's not all like that. There's definitely more energy here. We haven't got the sort of hi-hat drumming. And like, it definitely starts out more reserved at the beginning of the album, and as it moves forward, it goes away from that. Like I said, there is something of, pretty sure, a character arc here. So, kind of the shut in and pushing the world away, and then so. And then the penultimate track kind of dials things back down a little bit, but not in necessarily as depressive as it was at the start. Just feels a bit more. Yeah, like at the end he's saying like a person needs another person. So instead of like I don't love anyone, a person needs another person. So like there's, and you can even hear that reflected a little bit in the music, the synths, the upward rising synths. So yeah, the album Никого, люблю is by Электросон. Again, kind of that overlap of synth pop and post-punk. Quite nice. A little different. Just not necessarily what I was expecting. I had no idea what to expect from the album art, to be completely honest, but it was nice. It was a refresher. So now we got to talk about this album. Тальник is the name of the group, and the album is Любовь, сладкие, духи, прохожих. This is the album I'm not recommending. Тальник is a local indie group, and in fact, last year they had this very nice little EP. I don't know if I have the notes for it in front of me, but it was I really enjoyed it because it used. I probably should have looked that up before getting into this. I forgot, but because last year when I had listened, I had written stuff down about it. Their EP last year was it felt like something that had been recorded in an apartment. It felt very personal and still experimental, right? Like one of these songs felt like it had been recorded, and it was done intentionally, obviously, but it felt like it had been recorded secretly, right? Like somebody was singing a song almost from another room, and you could hear them washing the dishes, and it was like somebody had just sort of, maybe their lover or their wife or whatever, they had recorded them, just an intimate little moment in the domicile type thing, and it fit. It was just, like I said, it was this tight little EP that was very let me go ahead and open the album, this one, right? And it had like this lovely artwork, which obviously is kind of the thing that they're going with again here. So I don't remember which one it was, but again, 4 tracks, and I was just like, yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting here. This, on the other hand, I think is what happens when they leaned too far into whatever sound they were maybe experimenting with on that EP. I'm just going to play some of the songs so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. It's... Remember that 90s sound I was talking about before? it's kind of playing off of that, right? That like really cheaply produced, like some Casio keyboard type thing. It's not horrible, right? And I'm sure, and I've actually seen other reviews written about this album, because this was one of the more hyped up releases this last week. This, though. No, not yet, not yet. It's coming up. Like, obviously it's intentionally supposed to be atonal and a little bit like, it's on this track. It's gotta be on this track. I think this is it right here. Hold on. What are we doing here? And like, to be fair, I've listened to Shushu, right? I know how experimental, avant-garde, kind of indie music can be. But I think the problem is, I don't, like, if you listen to Shushu, there's always this sense that the lead singer is just completely about to have an emotional breakdown, right? Like, he's always on the verge of just tears or explosive anger, or like, it just feels like he's about to come apart at the seams. This is the opposite of that. And I don't want to say that this is bad per se, right? I've seen reviews where it's like, I didn't like it from the first time, I didn't like it from the second time, but around the fourth or the fifth time, it started to click. And it's like, I've already talked about this, where in 2025, that's not something that you can necessarily do anymore. Like, it's fine if there are songs on albums, and, you know, if you disagree, that's totally fine. I would love to hear the counterpoint. But, like, this is not the age of CDs where you go and you buy an album and then you sit there and you spin it repeatedly because you bought it. You're damn well going to listen to it. And even the tracks that, like, maybe are not the ones that you're super favorite with, over time, you come to appreciate them, right? Like, that was the case back in the day, right? And that's, people experimented more, and that was always why there were, like, the singles, and then there were B-sides, right? 2025, you can't do that as an artist. I mean, I understand Tальник have something of a reputation in at least the local indie community here. And like I said, when this album came out, it had a huge number of pre-saves, which, again, is not like the best metric for measuring how people feel about an album, but still, it is a metric that you can use. There are not a lot of other ones that you can kind of necessarily use. So it's a pretty, I guess, accurate one to use in 2025. I don't know. The other thing that gets to be a problem is, I don't know if this is supposed to be ironic, right? Like, it's like, oh, it sounds like that old music and it's kind of funny. Or is this supposed to be post-irony in the sense of, like, we know that you think this will sound like bad music, but we're actually being very serious about this? Or is it even like post-irony? Like, the thing is, the internet has kind of fucked us in this regard, where very rarely, like the last electronic album, like I was saying, those people are leaning full into that. They're having a good time with it. This is a little bit harder to tell because it's experimental, and they're really unpacking these sounds, or like trying to make this obtuse and at times difficult to listen to. And And I, like, in 2025, what's the term? Not ironic. What's the earnest, right? Earnest music. Like, if there's an actual earnestness to this, you kind of have to make that known. And doing all these weird things where the vocals kind of, like, that's not necessarily the way to sell that idea. If you want to go back and take those old synthesizers and that old way of, right? Yeah, like, this sounds like some, I don't know, wedding in the Russian countryside from 25 so years ago, right? Again, is it bad necessarily? No. But it's also not great. And this is what I wanted to talk about too, which is I was kind of like obviously interested in this album because, like I said, the EP last year caught my attention. I was like, okay, this is good. I was not impressed. I've listened, this is the third time I've listened to this album. I'll be honest, I listened to it once, didn't click. Listened to it again, still didn't click. I'm on my third time right now. Parts of it are starting to click, but it's the same parts, obviously, that I had hearted before. So that's fine, but like, why am I going to waste all this time to try to get into it? The other problem I have here is that critics were just eating this up. And obviously this has been a problem for a long time, but like, I don't see, it's the same thing we had with the Friendly Thug thing, like earlier this month, where everyone was losing their minds about Friendly Thug. Like it was just life-changing revelatory experience. I think it kind of sucks. Like, it does kind of suck. It's not a great album in the slightest. If you like it, that's fine, right? It's 2025. I don't give a shit what music you listen to. I'm just saying, I think it's a pretty crappy album. And I think this is another example of that, where it's like everyone collectively, not collectively, I did see maybe like one critique that was on the fence, right? But even then, it was just like, it's not so bad. And I don't know, obviously this exists in music criticism in the States, in the West, whatever you want to say. It exists in criticism of films or like there just need to be more people who say like, yeah, this fucking sucks, or this, which everybody else is not a huge fan of, is actually pretty goddamn good. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you are in the industry and you're close to those people over a long enough period of time, then there's that whole, you're trying to navigate personal relations or stuff like that, but I don't know. Honestly, the best, I'm going to play a little bit more here. I've given more time to the album that I liked the least this week. I should clarify though, I liked the least of all the albums I'm talking about with you. There were other albums that I just was like, nope, we're not going to even discuss these at all. So like, Tальник is still here. If you want something weird and experimental and something that you really have to like pick through and dig through and go into and I don't know, like spin it all day until it finally clicks in your head, you are more than welcome to do it. And it's probably fine, right? I'm just saying, yeah, the final track is probably the best one in my opinion. And like, if the whole album had been a bit more like this, we'd be having a different discussion. Would I have loved it? Probably not. But it definitely would have been like this feels like it's trying to be older, but there's still an earnestness here, right? The singing is more pronounced, and like, I'm pretty sure the dumb vocal nonsense comes in here in a little bit too. Oh yeah, it does. Like the like they're doing that nonsense again. But so yeah, right? That's the best track on the album, in my opinion. They're still doing the horse shit with like the I can't even do it. Like I feel like I would have to have a throat cold and then be just like, yeah, I'm gonna go into the studio and record this right now. So like I said, check it out if you want. I am not a fan of it. I think their EP from last year was a beautiful little EP. If you're interested, go check that out. But Любовь и сладкие духи прохожих by Тальник is not something that I'm on, and I think the hype around it can go like piss off. And yeah, again, there are better ways of going and exploring those old sounds and being experimental with it without being like kind of openly hostile towards the listener. Or again, but is it irony? Is it post-irony? Is it post-irony? I don't know. Fuck off with that nonsense. So, moving on, though. This is a lovely, lovely little indie EP. The album is Fedortolsтой, although Fedortolsтой, I don't know exactly how I'm assuming it's Fedortolsтой is how they want to pronounce. The EP is Этого, никогда, будет. Okay, so with some frequency here, I'm going to, I listen to some releases and they call to mind a period of time in my life, more so than necessarily a single group or two that I might be able to compare them to. And this album right here is one of those situations. This one took me back to the first years of my life after college, that brief span of time from graduation to when I moved to Russia, and the first year or two after I moved to Russia. It was when I was devouring all of the small indie groups that came through Des Moines, rest in peace, Vaudeville Muse, and whatever Pitchfork was raving about, plus just lots of other weird random stuff, like, for example, Ted Leo, The Kooks, anything and everything. What we've got here is a female-fronted indie group out of Nizhny Novgorod. It reminds me of all of those sounds from that time period, and just those years. And so the best I can do is just describe this as the sound of the late 2000s, and I guess kind of my youth to some degree. But let's just get into it. Hopefully you'll recognize the sound too. Also, I love the album artwork. Bounce around a little bit. You don't need to listen to this like 4 or 5 times before it starts to click either, you know? All right, one more. That EP is Этого, никогда, будет. The artist or the group is федортолстой. And yeah, that is going to be, if I had to make a top pick for like pop and indie this week, that is going to be it. Moving along though. So I had my little rant before that. Let's just move through the rest of these albums now. Moving into rock and metal. Up first, we have Красные, губы, and the artist is Данька Бегемот. I'm not going to waste any time. Short description for a short release. This is noisy psych garage punk from Kyiv. So kind of like a throwback to the old days of Ty Segall and Michael Cronin. I mean, it's an incredibly, it's like, what do we got there? 7 minutes. It's over before you even realize it's begun. But if you want something raw and unfiltered, it's going to give you a kick in the pants. This is it. It's got like a very old punk sort of stylized cover as well. So yeah, that EP is Красные, губы, and the artist is Данька Бегемот. Just a nice, fast little one there. All right, up next, from the far reaches of the Russian Far East, the island of Sakhalin, we've got a young group, кустарное производство. This is their EP, Чувствовать. Feels equal parts fragile and vulnerable indie, and then equal parts confused, energetic emo punk. Yeah, we'll start with the fragile, vulnerable kind of indie. We got a flute in there. There's actually a flutist in the group. Just kind of an interesting little fact I discovered. So, but then we've got something that's a little bit, like I said, more energetic, emo punkish. Emo pop punk, I don't know. And then there's a final track that sounds like EVsicov's the Heart in the Blender song. Wanna put my tender heart in a blender, watch it spin round to a beautiful oblivion. Rendezvous. It's the Heart in the Blender song. I'm not complaining, everybody loves that song, right? So yeah. Anyway, the EP is Чувствовать, and the group is Kustарное производство from Sakhalin, which is the island all the way off the far, far eastern edge of off of Russia. So, but yeah. Moving on, we have another EP. Lots of EPs here. This is Ritual in Transfigured Time by Arctic Palms. Dream pop, shoegaze, prog metal, post-rock. This album ticked off so many boxes. I found it discussed in so many different communities here. The short album here, this EP, is named after an experimental silent film from 1946 by a Ukrainian artist, Maya Deren, which highlighted urban isolation, the fading of memory, and the rituals we create for ourselves to feel the passing of time. From the press release, we got this. From the beginning, I've tried to sound like a feeling you can't put into words, like when you see an old photograph of people you don't recognize, but it still means something. Very out there with all the descriptions, but I actually did try watching the short film Ritual in Transfigured Time while listening to this, and while it doesn't quite sync up, and while it's like a little bit off, I do like that concept of going and finding old, especially silent films, and composing or making music to them. But this is like post-rock, but more proggy. Like I said, dream pop, shoegaze, prog metal, post-rock. There's a lot going on here. It's a very interesting listen. It's relatively short, and it is just like, it feels very contemplative. So, again, those ideas, urban isolation, fading of memory, rituals we create for ourselves to feel the passing of time. I'm just going to let it play. It's a very nice, like, post-rock album, I guess. Gets a little bit heavier, though, from time to time. We haven't had a lot of post-rock this year thus far. There have been some releases, but like... And they've been nice, but nothing really stands out. This one, I think, has some legs, is what I would say, because there's a lot of different ideas musically going on. Very atmospheric, but also a lot of drive here. Also, I want to say this reminds me of, like, there was a group that I don't remember where they were from. I remember I got their CD. They played a live show in Des Moines. They were called Tesseract. And it was like a trio, a post-rock trio. But they played, like, this really heavily influenced, lots of electronics, lots of guitar loops, and all that sort of stuff. And it reminds me a bit of them, so I don't think you can find Tesseract out there anymore. But if you like this, maybe you can. So yeah, very nice, very interesting, very atmospheric, but driven. We're just going to call it post-rock. The EP is Ritual in Transfigured Time. The artist is Arctic Palms. Okay, thank you. All right, we're getting close. Up next, we have the last EP here. It is Лицо, русского, matkora, and the artist is Maxim ЕВsикov, I think is how you say his last name. He's a bass player for a number of St. Petersburg bands. And honestly, Maxim here is promising a lot with the title of his EP, which translates as the face of Russian mathcore. And while I can't say with 100% certainty that there is anyone else maybe more deserving of the title or vying for the title, with these 4 tracks here, Maxim makes a pretty strong case for deserving the title. And it's not just mathcore. For, anyone who's interested, there are plenty of other metal sounds here from the early 2000s, but it definitely has, obviously, mathcore at its root. And obviously this is like a nod to the what's this, like a jazz album? Can't think of it, like The Shape of Jazz to Come or The Future of Jazz to Come. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but somebody else had pointed to that. I was like, oh yeah, that is right. Anyway, it's mathcore. Is this album dumbest AI art I've ever seen? There we get more of the mathcore sounds. I mean, so again, it's largely mathcore, right? But there are other metal sounds going on here. So yeah, 4 tracks, well done. Clocking in at under 10 minutes. Again, really short one, but nice work here. That is Maxim ЕВsиков, if I'm again pronouncing it right. And the EP is Лицо, русского, маткора. So, okay, the last one for rock and metal. We have Глухоморье, and the album is Kit, which is whale. You can maybe tell from the album artwork. This is a largely instrumental album, although there are occasional sections of like post-metal screaming and blast beats scattered throughout. It feels equal parts post-rock and post-metal. From the artist, quote, right, the project focuses on reinterpreting Russian folk culture through the prism of folklorists, uniting musical content with ethnographic and cultural anthropological materials. Not sure about all that, but okay, sure. What we have here are these like long, patient tracks that unfold slowly. Honestly, at times it feels like you're verging into soundtrack territory. It's very introspective. This is just a very nice post-rock release. It is definitely, in a lot of ways, more laid back than Arctic Palm's release, right? Like, see, right? 2 minutes in, we finally hit some of the this is the post-metal, and I would say like this sound is more in the first half of the album. It's a long album too. It's like almost an hour long. So again, obviously, like with some of these releases in the last few weeks, where there have been like Endless Ocean or Rouge, where there have been some just like massively long tracks, it's hard to highlight this. This is an album, again, just fair warning for people, so you don't go into this thinking it's just going to be like this all the time. There are a few tracks, I'll try to find it here, where we got the post-metal screaming. But this doesn't happen very often, and it's only, I think, on like 2 tracks, so. It's honestly not horrible. I mean, obviously for some people it's going to be a bit abrasive, but... right, like, this dials it way back, which is very... Not the whole time, though, obviously. It's a 12-minute track, right? Like, I can jump around all the time here. There are the blast beats. But then you have these just like very long, again, introspective sort of. I mean, again, it's kind of post-rock, but because it's so just calm and I mean, like, I guess Mogwai has made a career out of doing that kind of same thing where it just repeats itself, just gets louder and louder each time. But again, like I said, the vocals are, I'm pretty sure, on the 2nd and 4th tracks. Everything else, even if it does get a little bit heavier, is still instrumental. So, it being an album as long as it really is something that you just need to put on. If metal vocals are not your thing, I would still just give it a shot. Just understand that they are going to pop up occasionally, like a whale surfacing for ale in the first half, and then it goes under. But yes, and also the artwork's very nice. It's actual painting, obviously. So again, another, we'll call it a post-rock release. The album is Keith. The group, it's a one-man artist as far as I can tell. The artist is Gluchamoria, and I would say, yeah, that's going to be the top pick for rock and metal this week. I feel like Arctic Palms could have been up there, but this is just like a much bigger experience. So, all right. Brings us to rap and hip-hop here. That's going to wrap us up. Was that a pun? Not intentionally. All right, so yes. And honestly, with rap and hip-hop, I'll be honest, there were probably a lot of bad releases, but with rap and hip-hop, I usually try to sit down or like be around the computer so I can pull up lyrics. I do still try to do that because I feel like it helps a little bit more. A lot of music I can just sort of put on and listen to it and get it. With rap and hip-hop, I need to kind of focus a little bit because you can have really good music but just dog shit lyrics, and yeah, this is not that situation. So I only reviewed 2, but that's because that was like, they're longer albums and they're worth the time. Both of these are very good. I mean, obviously one is better than the other, but they're both very good albums. So the first one is Bolshoi Glebowski, which is like a play on the Big Lebowski. His name is Gleb, but Glebowski, right? Anyway, yeah, Bolshoi Glebowski. The artist is Krip-a-Krip. As much as I'm not a fan of the new wave of rap coming out of St. Petersburg, like the whole Friendly Thug, All Black 52, like that whole group, there's no denying that St. Petersburg has had a massive influence on the rap culture here in Russia, right? Like, it kind of is the cradle in some degrees, in some sense, of rap culture here in Russia. Same with techno, right? St. Petersburg is kind of important in that regard, especially in the early days. And what we got here with Krip-a-Krip is a legend of what you might call the older school. So from like 15, 20 years ago. It's an artist whose last true full-length album came out 12 years ago. A lot of people had written him off. He had some, personal issues in his life. They thought he was kind of done. He got his ducks in order or in a row or whatever the expression is. And then he came back with this album, and you wouldn't be able to tell that he's been gone 12 years. Like, a beat has not been missed. Great flow, clever lyrics, wordplay is really good. But most importantly, there is storytelling on every single track. Like, if you can follow the lyrics, he's world building. He's telling stories. It's not just guns, drugs, sex, violence, like money. It's not like, there's obviously some of that for sure, but there's also him kind of like dedicating a song to his wife or the woman he loves. There's a song connected to like paranoia while being on drugs. There's a song dedicated to his house. There's a song dedicated, the first track, to all of the rumors that were going on about him while he was gone. So like, it's not just empty. There's a lot of stuff packed into these lyrics, into these tracks, and it's got that old school sound, and we like that.
Сколько я раз слышал свой адрес, ты никто, ты не сможешь на улице в сети по телефону сладить чуть ли не голубиной почты. Сбитый летчик давно исчез с радаров торчек, чьи выступления не вызывают эффекта. Вау, этот старина походу спекся.
Which Wu-Tang members is like calling my information? Like Ghostface? Yeah, I think Ghostface. A little bit, right? Maybe. It's just like that. There's no hook here. It's just him. This is him telling the story. This is the one where he's going on about like all the stuff people said about him. But again, listen to the production on the tracks. They're different. There's stuff going on here to grab your attention. But they also don't steal your attention away from the lyrics.
Я верю в тот рай, где Марли продолжает петь новому no cry, где можно крови дать по следам.
Yeah, a track about all the people famous and people he's known who are died and like imagining the afterlife or whatever. I just want to point out that like it is possible, right, to do like the gritty storytelling and everything like that. That again, everybody was losing their minds about Friendly Thug. Like you can do both. You can have like kind of beefed up production and really true to the streets storytelling and flow. It's possible to have both. So it's very East Coast is all I'm gonna say. Like it's an oversimplification, of course, but
прислала нюд. Холодильник оказался пуст, но я вряд ли куда попрусь. Будь на мне хоть 5 курток, Канада, курс. Все, что мне нужно сейчас, кисой, кинсоль, фоном музло, теплый ковер, дом, милый дом. Смотрю на отражение, ор выше гор. Я стал хозяином красных шаров, как клоун. Мой дом, моя крепость. По прозвищу Лас Глебос. Прибавляю древний. Мой кореш спец по тарелкам, он знает типы всех гуманоидов. Назовет 200 причин, почему на спутник Земли не сел лунный модуль. Если мы вместе трем о большом брате, ты вряд ли заснешь. Будут мерещиться всюду агенты на ноуте, наклеишь на камеру скотч. Другой мой братишка, плоскоземельщик, он видит мир плоским. Как-то зашел ко мне в гости и озверел, обнаружив угночник глобус. Каждый новый день из
This is the one about paranoia, conspiracy theories.
Людей мы такие, но это хромакей. Другие думают, что все окей. Это мне? В руке бульб, на ноге свуш. Бытва мелькает в новостях, на их лице блюр. Голос не предназначен, Юлич, нет, скорее Юлий. Репрезентую Петербург, этот извечно хмурый человечий улей. Где сумасшедших уйма нередкие, буднют их в клубе. Где я решил растить бородку, мол, теплее будет. Теперь же я шевелюры, аборигены из племя Вуки. Чули, чтобы чуть-чуть согрелись руки, двигаюсь в стиле электрик-буги. Уже не верю в повышение температуры, зная Питер, в шкафу не прячу надоевший пушер.
So yeah, obviously, if you know Russian and you can like parse the lyrics, then you're gonna get a lot more out of this album. The beats are like, again, that kind of very East Coast, laid back, not super minimalistic, but right, they're not dialed up to 10, anywhere close to that. So again, since theoretically I hope Russians do get to see this as well too, but I'm assuming that since I'm speaking in English and stuff like that, it's for a less Russian speaking audience. I'm kind of bumping this one down. Lyrically, fantastic. Probably lyrically better than the top pick for the week, but yeah. Anyway, great album, very good rap album. Probably one of the better rap albums we've had this quarter, I guess is what I would say. So in April and in May. And the album is, again, Bolshoi Glebovsky, and the artist is Krip-a-Krip. And that brings us to the final one for the week, and it's ВАТО with blank name 2. Maybe not a huge surprise for anybody who knows. We got a nice balance of trap sort of style music, or as what it's sort of known as here, and that kind of smooth R&B. ВАТО actually released a more lyrical EP last year. It was very excellent. I really enjoyed it. So evidently that experiment didn't go to waste. 23 tracks, very, very long, like Friendly Thug territory. But it's 48 minutes long, a little over 48 minutes long, so it's a little bit longer. But the thing is, it never overstays its welcome, right? The sequencing is wonderful. You never get a beat or you never get beat over the head with one song and idea and the same type of flows. Things switch up and move around and change. Long story short, ВАТO's got very nice flow, great flow, voice that's kind of smooth and gruff in turn. And this album, even though it goes on and goes on, it just never feels like it's treading water or staying in one place. It's constantly moving and developing, and most importantly, it's constantly engaging your attention, and like that's the big thing. So I'm just gonna jump right into it. It's got like a little bit like the Rick Ross type vibes at times too, which I did, like it was Rick Ross back in the day. Like, you don't need to understand what's going on here, you can just vibe. And not to say that there isn't some level of storytelling here, but it's less a key element.
Много груза, ВАТО везет эти барс. Той зимой я чуть ли не погас. Терял себя в тайге, как будто сотовая связь. Меняясь, наломал, ничего не спас.
We got a little bit of the auto tune in there, so. And also, like, holy crap, the featured artist Saluki Jimbo, Tveth, ATL, Avenue Plug, Ice Gerger, Obladate. It's pretty stacked. beat-wise, it does switch things up. And I mentioned like how the ideas can flow and shift, and like it doesn't. It's not a like. Here's one of the more like lyrical tracks, if you will. So it goes from this like kind of more, again, singing more than rapping. But it will just sort of transition here into the next one. Could have like just let it transition. And it just like kind of, but it's not abrupt necessarily or jarring. And like I said, sequencing is super important, especially in a rap album. So So there are these little respites from the like the sort of harder rap elements with these more melodic sections, which is good. Got a bit of like sort of the electronic beat thing going on in the background there. But obviously, yeah, it still is going to push that harder sound as well. So yeah, a long album, a lot of tracks, but it's really good. It's a very good album. It's probably the most entertaining, most engaging thing I listened to in the last 7 days. That was new, I should say. I should clarify. And yeah, I do think that this is one that's going to have staying power. I think this is one that, again, kind of like some of the other ones that I've talked about in weeks past, where I feel like there are, like Loki Mean, there are a lot of tracks on here that if there's any justice, and if the way that the charts work here is not totally ridiculous, then I would hope that some of these tracks are kind of like going to push up into the, like, they're going to get spins in the summer, right? Because a lot of this feels like the type of stuff that it's got that sort of summer vibe. Maybe that's just me too. I always loved rap music in the summertime. I don't know, it was something about it, especially this style. ATL is perhaps a different story, but so yeah, that's the top pick of the week for me. That's Blank Name 2, coming 2 years after the first Blank Name. Definitely a much bigger and more diverse album this time around, and the artist is VATO. So yeah, that's that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, we got, well, maybe I didn't say it, but there is a week of the month left, and then after that, I guess, yeah, we're into June and the first month of summer. I honestly am a little curious to see what it will be like in the summer months, if things will again kind of taper off, or if it will be this kind of like what we've seen in May. There have been some really good releases, but we haven't had a super stacked week in any sense. There have been, like, each week there's been maybe like one or two really good albums, sometimes in the same genre, typically split between genres, and then just like a lot of whatever stuff. And I mean, that could be the case. Again, people go off on holiday and people are like kind of paying less attention, but then at the same time, summertime, it's like people are outside, they're listening to music, they're at the dacha, they're cooking shashliki and all that stuff. So maybe there will be bigger releases. Maybe they'll be giving me like more party releases like Turbosh or whatever. So we'll have to see. I'm kind of curious. I didn't really follow that closely last year. I tried, but I approached it the wrong way. So anyway, I'm going to finish it up here, and I'll be back next Thursday again at 10 p.m. I think next Thursday will be the last time at 10 p.m. though. I think I've got everything figured out, and I'll be able to move it back to 9 p.m., which will be nice because it's a little late. It's after 11 here. I'm getting to be a little sleepy Sally. But yeah, anyway, I leave a like if you liked the content, right? Do the YouTube thing. I'll be back on Sunday as well to do the news stream. Not really anything has happened in the last 24 hours, so I'm hoping it will be another situation where I'll have an opportunity to talk about like some larger topic, or if anybody in the chat decides to peep in and ask a question. That happens occasionally, but anyway, yeah. So Sunday, I'll be back for the news, and next Wednesday, I'll be back for the news at 9 p.m. Moscow time, and then next week, I'll be back here on Thursday at 10 p.m. Moscow time to do more of the music. Until then, everyone have a nice evening, afternoon, whatever time of day it is. Y'all take care of yourselves. I will see you when I see you. Until then, пока-пока.